out like lemon drops. Oh, way above the chimney tops, that's where you'll find me. feel you. That is how I know you. Go on. Far across the distance and spaces between us, you have come to show you. Go on. Near, far, wherever you are, I believe that the heart does go on. Once more, you open the door, and you're here in my heart, and my heart will go on and on. Love can touch us one time and last for a lifetime, and never let go till we're gone. Love was when I loved you one true time. I hold you in my life, will always go on. Near, far, wherever you are, I believe that the heart does go on.
Yeah.
I dared to dream the impossible, and when the impossible really did happen, I had to shake myself into the reality that it had happened, that I was marrying Gerry, and even in later years, that I was really married to him. Sounds like I'm desperate, and I was desperate. We got married. I met Gerry in 1957 while I was in Jamshedpur studying Hindi, and I went to Calcutta to Auntie Lynette and Uncle Walter's house for my Xmas holidays, since it was expensive coming home. Gerry happened to come up there for some training or on some work. That was the first time in my life I was seeing him. And anyway, it was a happy stay with them because Gerry was very affectionate and generous and demonstrative, and we had a good Christmas season together, went to the dance, etc. together, and what started as a mild flirtation in 1957 grew into a strong emotional attachment, though on his side I think he would have loved to have it stay as a flirtation. But then we got back to our respective jobs and places, and he kept in touch, and this carried on for a long stretch of 13 years, till eventually I decided to call it a halt, and told him to keep off, and that I was keen on going my way. At that time I found him reluctant to just make a break. And so with this persistence, just wanting to keep in touch and not make any commitment, I was getting more and more, tired and bothered. Till eventually in about 1967 he asked me to come to Hyderabad to talk things over, during which time he told me rather, that he was a very difficult person to live with, and if I could put up with all his peculiarities, maybe we could consider getting married. To which I very, very readily agreed. So in January 1969, he fixed a date, and we got married on the 12th of December. On 12th of Jan, it was a very small reception. He even picked up his suit on the way to the airport, his wedding suit. Once we were married, he said he felt he had wasted 13 precious years, which he was really sorry about. And I must say that we spent the happiest 23 years together. When I married him, he was just a maintenance engineer. I wouldn't say just, but he was a maintenance engineer. And he had lofty ideas. He wanted to get to the top. He studied, he worked, and the rest of the time, even during his working hours or his studying hours, like the closeness between us was so immense that he would phone me or call me every little while, and that made me feel good, and I think he grew to find it difficult to live without me. Then this went on till, for a long stretch, we traveled a lot, and then we were getting a little worried that there was no baby on the scene. But at the same time, Gerry said it didn't matter, he didn't have one, he would rather have me alive than go for operations or for treatments, which he was mortally scared. Till about in August 1977, after almost 9 years, Ryan arrived, and with that life was absolutely complete. We moved to Delhi from Hyderabad, and it was really a very, very happy time together. Gerry's mom, Auntie Minnie, was with us, and she was a tremendous help. In fact, right through the time till we were married, she was a big support to me, and she thought that, if I cared so much about Gerry, he should decide, make up his mind, rather than have somebody who was, not really so supportive. So I never forget her for this, the support and the affection and whatever that she gave me. We had several transfers during our stint in the airline. We were in Delhi when Ryan was born. We stayed there for about, I think, 3 years, a period of 3 years. And from there we moved back to Hyderabad. And at every stage, all that was on Gerry's mind is, when will I get the next promotion? He studied and studied. And often, when we had friends over, he used to get tired of studying. He would like to come out and, have a drink and mingle with them. And I would, keep a watchful eye and remind them it was time to go back to his studies. Then, when we were in Bombay, it was a very long spell in one particular grade, and he was getting very depressed and upset. And we would just sit together without even talking too much, because he used to be in such an upset state of mind, but he was happy that we would work together. Till in 1987 he got his promotion to regional director. He got his promotion in 83 or 84 to regional director. And once he got to regional director, life was even more complete, because we added perks of traveling first class and moving with him wherever he went and attending all his conferences. He used to attend them, but the wives had their get-togethers and the good eating in the hotels and the sightseeing, etc. And then when 87 came, it was time for him to almost retire, and he was really terrified to think that Ryan was so small and he wouldn't be able to stretch the money for Ryan's education and things, and he was looking for jobs desperately. And I remember Harshvardhan, who was the managing director of Vayudoot, who came up to him one day and offered him a job as manager in Vayudoot, and Gerry was simply thrilled. He was so grateful and thankful, and he accepted it, or rather he said he would accept it willingly as soon as he retired. In the meantime, we didn't really imagine what was in store for Gerry. Rajiv Gandhi, who was not the Prime Minister at that time, I think he must have been maybe he was Prime Minister. He met Gerry one day and told him that he had plans in store for him, and he said, do you think you'd be able to cope? And Gerry, of course, very emphatically said, 100%. Little did he dream that this MD of Indian Airlines was in store for him. We were trying to figure out whether it would be in charge of the flying academy at Fursatganj with Rajiv Gandhi, etc., or whether we just couldn't think of what it could be. We discussed and sat till one fine day, Jagdish Taitler, who was the then aviation minister, called us from the Centaur Hotel and said that he would like to talk to Gerry. So Gerry rushed up there, and then he told him that Rajiv had this in mind, that he was wanting him to be the MD of the airline. We really couldn't believe our ears, our eyes, whatever. it was like, hitting the skies. He couldn't believe that Rajiv had this in store for him. He came back, we were mighty excited. And this was already sometime in January. Gerry was retiring on 31st of March. And they said that he would be scheduled to go for an interview sometime before that, maybe in Feb or whatever. So much excitement, buying a new tie and looking for an old suit which he would try to make new and all the rest of it. And he went for the interview and came back, and then after that we didn't hear anything, and waiting and counting minutes and days for the good news to be out in the open, and nothing was happening. It was the 29th of March and still nothing was happening till I forced Gerry to call up Satish Sharma, who was the guy appointed to give Gerry the news. And I remember sitting and dialing him because Gerry had, almost given up on this. Till I got him, and then I said, Gerry's on the line, why don't you come? And Gerry came to the phone and said, I've just got 2 days to go, and after which I retire, and if there's no continuity, I'm out of this race. So immediately he was stunned. He thought Gerry had much more time. He set about informing the the cabinet or whoever, the 3 who had to pass his files. And they hand took his files to each of the departments, got things signed. And on the 31st of March, while we were sitting, Gerry was really very, very depressed, and we were having a big party for him in the evening. He was not keen on going to it because it was like the end of the world, finishing with the airline. And at about 2:30 in the afternoon, the phone rang, and I picked it, and I could hear this guy Rajiv Talwar from the ministry, who said, at long last our dearest wish is coming to pass. They're in signing Gerry's papers, and the news should be out in a while. So I put the phone down, I called up Gerry and gave him the news. His whole tone and whatever changed. He was so excited. He came rushing home. He said his office was full of pilots, etc., wishing him goodbye, and engineers, whoever. And he came home, I gave him the news. He sat, knelt down, said a prayer. I remember he was so emotional. May and Vivi were with us, and Ryan was at home, and he said a prayer, and Gerry broke down with emotional excitement. He got back to the office, and in the evening we had this farewell party. By then Gerry was in ecstasy because he knew he was still going to be in the airline. We went to the party, and which was supposed to be a farewell, and everybody out there was there wishing him good health and whatever for retirement. And before, in a little while, Dinesh Khanna came out with the champagne, and he said he got to congratulate Gerry, and everything changed. And of course, the celebration started. And Gerry caught the next flight at 6 in the morning because he didn't want to delay lest somebody else goes and causes some more problems. He went, signed, and took over as MD. And so we started on a new life as, managing director.
Well, when I think of my dad, there are just so many snapshots actually that come to mind. There's one of a really successful person professionally, but more importantly, very, very successful when it came to the family. A really loving father, a devoted husband, someone who was always pretty much in control, but yet at the same time someone who was extremely emotional. I think he was able to get down to my level. Well, I was pretty young for most of the time that I knew him, and I think we really hit it off like friends. When I talk about hitting it off like friends, my memory goes back to our days at Kalina in the Indian Airlines quarters. I must have been 3 or 4 at that time. And I remember in the evening, the doorbell ringing at about 7:30 or 8, and Mom running to open the door, and Dad coming in, taking off his shirt, throwing it on the sofa set, having a quick snack, and then coming down on his force to play with me. And we'd just, be playing like we were the same age. So I'd be on his back and we'd have these imaginary shoots that we'd go on, and we'd be hunting tigers and lions, and well, it was fun. And then time went by, and I moved on from being a 3 or 4 year old and entered the double digit age group. And then again, it was he adapted to the changing age and wanted to teach me all that there was, or all that he could. So he'd take me along for all the air shows and make sure he explained to me all he knew about planes. He taught me how to drive when I was 11 or 12 years old. So I'd take the car and out of the garage and put it back into the garage. So our relationship kind of evolved, but I think I always looked upon him as a friend. If I look a little deeper in there, I also probably looked upon him as someone I'd like to be. But a long time has passed, since he passed away, and I have grey hair now. Maybe I've not been, or may not have reached all that he was able to achieve. But I'd always like to think that I'd emulate at least his personality. He was one hell of a guy, great personality, and always treated his family as the most important thing. We'd enter, I remember, his office in Delhi at 6 in the evening to pick him up and bring him back home. And I'm sure he was pretty busy as the head of Indian Airlines. But he made it a point to make us feel very much at home in his office. He'd order snacks for us, get up from his chair and come and sit on the sofa set with us and give me my 5 or 10 minutes of fame in the hot seat, literally. He'd let me sit on his chair in the office. But I think the few qualities that I take away from the person who was my dad, his immense sense of integrity, his unwillingness to give up, his love for his family, his emotional ways, his softness when it came to people in need, and yet at the same time his controlled manner, his ability to say the right things and at times not say anything at all. When we did set out to make this video on him, I was just thinking, what is it that I'd say? It's been so long since he left us. And then while Mom and I were, going through a few papers, clearing up the cupboard, we came across some of the letters that he wrote to Mom and to me. And in minutes, the only thing that hit me was his immense closeness to both Mom and me. I'm sure his career did mean a lot to him, but I think Mom meant the world to him, and without her, I'm not sure whether he would have, maybe he would have reached where he was, but I think they were so well suited to each other that it just made the climb a lot easier and a lot happier. So, it's now 16 years since he passed away, and we're making this little commemorative video about him, and I'm so happy we've finally been able to do this. Thank you.
He was a mischievous chap, actually. So mischievous that my mother couldn't control him, and actually the principal of the school had to control him.
Okay, and what about Dad's relationship with Nana Millie?
Oh, very, very close relationship. I think he felt very sorry for her, and they were like not really brothers and sisters, that put them down to even lovers. Even lovers to the extent.
Uncle, you'll have to talk a little louder.
They were very, very close to one another. Gerry was a very soft-hearted boy and felt very, very much for his mother, and I would even put him down that they were like lovers. He would go and lie next to her and on the bed and chat to her and things like that.
Okay, and Auntie Jeanette, what were your recollections of Dad and ever since you knew him?
Well, the first thing is when Uncle Willie's proposal came up and I heard that there was a younger brother who was in the Airlines, I would have preferred the younger brother. I hadn't seen either of them. I thought that was more dashing. And then I told Uncle Will that I liked his accent, and he said, "You must hear my brother's accent." Anyway, I got to meet the brother a month before we were married, and in fact, he managed quite a lot of the wedding for us, for which we are very grateful. And after it was all over, he started crying, because whenever he got emotional, he cried. So those were my earliest recollections.
A few words on Gerry, and not given much time to think about it. It's 16 years now, and maybe I touch only on from some few striking points that remains strongly embedded in my memory. There are two parts I would like to dwell on. One is Gerry as a person. Gerry started life with practically everything against him. Now, we don't know the trauma that went through his mind, and we don't know the trauma that worked through him all the days of his life. But I know that he had great determination not to fall by the wayside because of things that he couldn't help. And he was someone who felt very deeply, so he didn't need much to break into heavy sobbing and crying. Anyway, the person as Gerry, Mari and Ryan can talk much more, so I won't spend more time on that. But he was a good-hearted person, warm and ready to extend help to whoever needed. And surprisingly enough, didn't seem to have much attachment to money. It came and it went, and it didn't bother him. The other aspect of Gerry is why should we think of him at all as something great? And that's because of his achievement. When you think of great people, of a great person, you want and try to put his greatness into perspective. You roam to your mind for other great characters. And three of them come to mind as far as my thoughts on Gerry go. What is Charles Darwin? I suppose it'll bring a smile to all your lips. The other is Abraham Lincoln, and the third is King Arthur. Now let me just elaborate on these three. You see, Charles Darwin, everyone says he spoke about the survival of the fittest, but he never went to really understand what he meant. What he really meant is it's the survival of those who can adapt themselves to changing circumstances and absorb the different modes of survival needed by these circumstances. This is what Gerry became an adept at, because he rose in life from the lowest starting point in the Airlines organization, and in the course of it must have had a lot of difficulties trying to climb, because everyone knows to climb from the lowest level is generally an impossibility. Now he used his skills at adapting and at winning over people, and of course his learning abilities, and finally rose to the highest point as MD of Indian Airlines. Why do I speak of Abraham Lincoln? Well, in a way, there is a big similarity between the two. Abraham Lincoln started as a farmhand, born of farmhands. Pretty low and pretty difficult. He only became aware of the need to move out of this environment around the age of 14. And like Gerry, he educated himself. And can you imagine, he then moved on to become the president of the USA. And not just an ordinary president, but a president who brought about an upheaval to the world values of those days. He abolished slavery. And the third person I'm talking about, I referred to, is King Arthur. What is so big or something to remember about him? He was one who never gave up. Everything he did, if it failed once, he tried again, and he succeeded. It was the same with Gerry. he had innumerable exams to pass, and they were all compensatory exams, where orals counted a lot. And naturally, if the examiner didn't like you or was very subjective, you failed. So he had to try, and finally, I think he was the only engineer in the whole of Asia who qualified in all aspects of aircraft maintenance. Having said this, I think my time is running out, and Ashwini's hand must be aching holding onto the camera in front of me. But let me say, when Gerry, in his very last effort to please the owner of the organization he was working with, he did an exam again at quite a late age of 60 and odd, and passed it and became the maintenance engineer, or qualified to be the maintenance engineer to certify the plane that was bought in the US for Vijay Mallya, the very first of his start in the airlines field. Unfortunately, he didn't live to see the scheme or the organization grow in the aviation field, because he suddenly passed away, very suddenly. I'm sure he had some idea that things are wrong with him, but he was one of those who would take everything in their stride and not worry too much about difficulties. So this time he couldn't survive the heart problem that came upon him. Anything else I can think about? He left behind his wife and son, and of course a lot of work he had done in his flat. He himself had worked in it. I caught him one day with a drilling machine going around. So a lot of memories on the material side also. And very importantly, the values that he imbibed into both the wife and son helped her marry the wife, who knew nothing at all about finance, to finally become quite an adept in it and handle it all to such an extent that she even managed to sell off her shares in a very short time and net enough of capital gains to buy the new place at quite a fantastic price. As far as the son goes, he still has a quest for learning after having already qualified at the prestigious Indian Business School of Management, and a determination to rise to the top. Of course, I'm sure he had no idea that his father had to work very hard for it, first point. And his father, positively, in my opinion, didn't have this ambition in him at the start. I say this because he was very good technically, but when it came to moving to management, the discussion took place at our flat in Masgone. My elder brother was also present. Both of them were very good technically. Both said, no management for us. It'll be our debt till. We are very good in this field, we carry on here. I interjected to say that you can't rise. Anyway, Gerry finally did accept the management post. He did very well, and he rose rapidly. One last point, very important indeed. You needed someone to pull you up. Someone has to drag you up on this morass of people pulling you down. And he was fortunate here, because as a ground engineer par excellence, one day he came across a pilot who was in trouble. And he was very upset because the engineers at this airport, Hyderabad I think it was, just laughed at his problems and says, take off. So Gerry came on the scene, and this is an ordinary airlines pilot, so he didn't have to be particularly pleasing to him, but he did listen to him, and he did solve the problem, and the pilot was very, very pleased with him and never forgot it. In time to come, this simple, ordinary pilot became the Prime Minister of India. He never forgot Gerry. And when the time came to fill the top post in Indian Airlines, he put his foot down and insisted that the only candidate at that post had to be Gerry. Of course, there were many who tried to sabotage this desire of the Prime Minister of India. And it would have been sabotaged for the simple reason that Gerry was about to reach his age of retirement. And if he didn't get his extension or the promotion by then, it couldn't be arranged. So the Prime Minister woke up just 2 days before Gerry's retirement day. Gerry got the promotion to the MD 1 day before his retirement. So that's the story of Gerry in a few words that I could add. Okay.
Thank you, Uncle.
Gerry was a great guy whose hard work, perseverance and honesty got him to the pinnacle of his career. He had a great sense of humor and, of course, a sense of very family oriented, which helped to bring out the best in Ryan and bring him to where he is. And unfortunately passed away before his time, but the family goes on and Ryan's doing very, very well.
I think it would have been wonderful to have Gerry over here to see how well Ryan has done, to meet Ashwini. Ashwini would have enjoyed all his jokes, and the things that strike me most are, I remember when Ryan was growing up, he tried teaching him the facts of life with all his jokes on paper and all kinds of things. He was really funny. And but I'm sure he has his hand over them and life has worked out because he has been there.
Although it's been several years since Gerry passed away, memories of Gerry are still fresh in my mind. Gerry had a wonderful sense of humor and great integrity. His charm and his brains took him to the top of the ladder. Just when he was in the peak of his career, he had a massive heart attack and he went so suddenly. It is hard to believe that Gerry is no longer with us. Mari, you have done a wonderful job raising Ryan. God bless you and may Gerry rest in peace.
From very young, always to be together. And I used to like him very much because he was very loving, very kind, and he was very helpful for everybody. And especially my nephew got a job, and I used to like him very much. Another thing, he is very good-hearted, and I love him. Now he's not more here, but still I think of him. And Ryan, Mari used to be going about all over. They used to take me as their own, and used to help me a lot in talking anything what I want. That is really, he help everybody, each and everybody, even the outsiders, and even they don't know anyone. He was really so kind, he's so good. I just can't tell you, because I was thankful that he was with us. Okay.
Yeah. Remembering Gerry is something very special for me, because for me he was more of a brother than a cousin on my father's side. And I always remember the times he used to be full of jokes and tease me so that I would run away so that Mari would come to my rescue. And I've spent so many happy times with them in Delhi, in Bombay, and with little Ryan teasing me, and oh God, I have been very happy with them. So being with them is a very important part of my life, and I miss him, but I don't think he's gone ever, because I see the flitting image of him in his sunshine. Yes, and I'm very happy that he is well settled now and got a lovely bride, Ashwini, and this house and everything falling into place. I'm so happy about everything. And I love his career. Yes, and I think Gerry worked very hard right from the beginning and was very well brought up by his mother. And he rose to great heights, of which I'm very proud of. And his son is also following in his footsteps. Gerry, you have a very special place in my heart. Yeah. For me, talking about Uncle Gerry is like saying thank you, because when I first came to Bombay, it was to Uncle Gerry and Auntie Mari's house that I came, and I made it my launching pad. And there was never a doubt in my mind, because it was such an open house. He had such a generous, warm, giving spirit that I knew I could stay there for any length of time without being questioned. They made it a home for me. Still I could find my own pad that I could rent out. And Uncle Gerry is also responsible for giving me my first job with Vayudoot. And thinking of Uncle Gerry and his the humour in his persona is one side of him, and the other side is always a thinking side. You would always find Uncle Gerry with one face slightly to an angle, and eyebrows shot up high, as if he was wondering all the time. But the other side is a party in his house would be like super fun. There would be all the cousins and all the aunties and uncles, half of them talking about share and stocks, and the other half, like Uncle Johnny and Gerry, would be ribbing each other with jokes and repartee. And they were true flesh and blood people. And Uncle Gerry will be always acclaimed by our family as someone who did something great with his life and stood up for his convictions in spite of I think all the politics of his job and stuff, but came out a true member of our Catholic society. We're proud of Uncle to have him as a member of our family. And I must say that the wind beneath his wings is Mari.
You've been a wonderful cousin to us. You stayed with us, and shall I say, we had good times together in the old days, which we'll never forget. You and Willie have always been with us. We grew up together, and now I'm in your house enjoying the company of Mari, Ashwini and Ryan. Thank you very much.
Enjoyed Gerry's company because I like to laugh, and he always made everyone laugh, and that's all I can say for the time being. I hope you can understand what I'm saying. because my accent is not Indian today, but my accent is different. Thanks.
Gerry T. Pais, whom I used to fondly call GT, was someone who has been part and parcel of my life. And I'm sure I was a little bit part of his life. He was probably the brother that I never had. With age, difference between the two of us made no difference at all. I remember the times before he got married to Mari, where we used to have a lot of fun together. Church was the best place to have the fun because we were outstanding Catholics, both of us. And then there was always tea time during the sermon. After Mass, we never reached home. There was always something going on. But it was all in good fun. And then came Mari. Mari, of course, she was always there in the background, but Gerry didn't tell me. He kept that as a secret. Like he kept it from, I think, everybody. Well, they got married, and then he went away from Bombay. He was in Hyderabad, I believe, among the very many other places. And one night, I remember, on my way to Vizag, or on the way back from Vizag, I stayed over at their place. And what a night it was. Gerry didn't want to sleep. And I was there, half asleep. But we had a nice time. Our friendship grew and Gerry came back to Bombay, I think about 35 years ago. I'm not sure now how time has flown. But it grew and it grew and it grew. There came little Ryan. Right from the day he was born, we were up to something or the other. I remember going to Kobana to buy the cake. And then Gerry wanted to know who was going to cut the cake. Little Ryan was too small. But we all had cake that day. We enjoyed it. After the Bombay sojourn of his, he went off to Delhi. And up to Delhi as the big boss. And as the big boss, his word was law. Not that it was in our house, because there was always Marriott around. We would tell him, okay, Gerry, you're not MD over here. I'm the boss here. But it was lovely. Gerry, if you don't come to the table, food has been served, you'll get no food. That was the boss's boss. But it was very nice. We spent wonderful evenings together in Bombay, and then a lovely fortnight with Gerry, Mari and Ryan in Delhi. I say that because we grew closer and closer in those days. And I remember the times when Gerry used to come straight from the airport to Bandra, much to the annoyance of Mari, because she wanted to open her house, or Babu, who did not know what was happening. But it was lovely. It was a sad day indeed when Gerry left this world. 2 days before that, or 2 nights before that, he was at our place. And so vividly, though times have gone, years have passed, I vividly remember that evening. We had a lot of fun. We had a couple of drinks together. We had dinner together. And then suddenly at midnight, he tells everyone, he tells the youngsters, come on, let's go and get ice cream. I don't know if Ryan remembers that. But off they went in the car, brought ice cream and came back. And we all had ice cream, though Mari was screaming. He left that next morning for Bangalore, and unfortunately, that was the last time I was able to spend with him. I miss him immensely. His advice, his guidance, and the fun and laughter that he brought into our lives. I think Marriott will agree with me that there were so many instances where he made us laugh and laugh and laugh. And I'm sure that that is what he is right now. While we are talking, he must be saying that he is having the last laugh. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't want to repeat what Edgar has said about Gerry. Gerry was a very loving person. He was very kind, very soft-spoken, and also very witty. Many a times he would crack some jokes, and even our children would have a good laugh. And sometimes when he used to come straight from the airport here, even though Edgar was not here, our children would say, your boyfriend has come. But he was very affectionate, and what else? There's lots to say about him, but now I can't say anything without writing it down. But and when he used to sit at the table for dinner, Mari would kick his leg and say, how much are you eating? And he would say, sure, there is enough. All can eat. We can share everything. So we miss him very much. Though it's now, how many years, Mari? 16 years have passed, and we still have his memories with us.
I wouldn't be fair to Gerry if I didn't relate some of the anecdotes which he told me after we were married. He left home at 17 and a half to join the airline as an unpaid mechanic. At that time it was Deccan Airways. And since they were really badly off, he left home with a steel trunk with 2 pants and 2 shirts, all borrowed from the family. And he landed at Secunderabad station, where his Anglo-Indian friends met him and took him to his new abode, which they called Home for the Homeless. It was a chamari with a whole heap of them staying in. And they shared whatever they could. Everyone lived very frugally because they were all in bad straits. Gerry lived on 1 anna worth of custard apples for the whole day, every day of the month. And he left work early morning on a cycle and cycled to Deccan Airways. Often he fell off the bike because he was so tired and sleepy. He stayed awake through the night trying to study and get his licenses or try to get the know-how about the airline so that he could move from an unpaid apprentice to the next grade. At the end of the month, very often none of the guys would have the money to pay the rent, and so the landlord cut off the electricity. Gerry said at that time he was forced to study by candlelight. He would drop off to sleep, burn his hair, and lots of funny things would happen. In fact, one time the landlord was so furious that they couldn't pay their rent and electricity bills. Everything was in arrears. So he went up to fire the whole lot of them and throw them out of the house. They said they would leave the next day. But when the next day came, one of the Anglo-Indian guys from Chamari, they had fought for 9 years. He stripped nude and went down and sat outside in the courtyard with an umbrella. And when the landlord came to collect the rent or to meet them, he started yelling and shouting at the guy as if he was a lunatic. The landlord was so scared he ran away. So these guys got another day or another few days to stay there. So this continued for some time. And the next thing Gerry said, he had a friend who used to who lived in the Chamari, who used to have very expensive books. So Gerry asked him one day, where do you get, he had by then moved out to another guy's house. So Gerry asked him, where do you get these books from, all these expensive books? And he said, I'm living with a friend now, and this guy doesn't feed me well. So what I do is I pinch his books. At that time he didn't tell Gerry that he was pinching the books. He said, I live with a friend who gives me these books. So Gerry, would you like to have some? He asked Gerry. So Gerry said, yes, you can get me. I'd be thrilled. So he, in the next few days, he brought Gerry a heap of books which Gerry was delighted to have. And he started reading them. And he asked the guy, where do you get these books from? Or how do you manage so? This guy told Gerry, he said, my landlord starves me, so I pinch his books. So these are some of the pranks they were up to. Quite a few more stories, but it could make it too long. But this was, underlying all this humor was the strain of, working or living frugally or trying to get things in the cheapest way, getting books from people, whatever, to achieve his ambition. So it was really tough going for him. In fact, he tried to give Brian his philosophy on life, and he said, tough times never last, but tough people do. And then he went on to tell him, when the going gets tough, the tough get tougher. And to put all this, to toe the line in these times, he told Brian, remember, you've got to study very, very hard. Those who burn the midnight lamp are the ones who get the furthest in life. This is what he should repeat time and again to Brian. And then he said, whatever work you do very honestly and work very hard. Remember, honesty, sincerity come through in all your dealings. So keep this in mind whatever you do. And what else would he tell Brian? He would say, whatever you want to get, wherever you want to get in life, always act your position right now. If you want to be an engineer, don't behave like a mechanic, even though you are one. Start acting like an engineer already. He says, that's what I used to do. And throw money, act generous. It always comes back to you tenfold. So with all this in mind, he hoped that Brian would pick up some of these tips to help him on in life as he tried to climb the ladder. I sincerely hope, I'm sure Ryan already has started using his tips. So all in all, I can say that the legacy that that Gerry has left us is a wealth of happiness, really tons and tons of memories to live on and relive as we go through life. In fact, his last card to me was really, I would say, just a contradiction or the opposite of what he had earlier told me right at the start when we were getting married. He said he was a very complex guy and it would be difficult to cope with him. But at the end of it all, the card that he sent me said that he was able to open up and share with me things that he could never have dreamt of doing. Thank you.
So today the 23rd of March 2008, and here's what is the Gerry Pais line of the family. There's Ashwini, my wife, the latest addition to the family, Mari, and me, Ryan. And we can't help but imagine how much more complete this picture would have been if Dad was around. We definitely have so many memories which would hold us, keep us remembering him for a long time more. This video, I'm sure, would keep his memory alive for years to come, and let his grandchildren and great-grandchildren know who he and his wife, Mari, really are as people. Thank you.
In China once there lived a great man. His name was Chikaraka Chichaicho. His hands were small and his feet were long, and this Chinaman couldn't walk at all. Chikaraka Chichaichu Chakalorum Kandalorum Manapaka Whack Hoko Kekamonas Portico Ichipai Chichaicho. We are for big bad Bolsheviks. The Bolsheviks are the lights. We love to laugh. Bolsh fly through the day. We also Bolsh at night. One day before a joke ski, we pressed the front door bell ski. A pussy cock came after us. We ran away like hell ski. He soon gave up the chase, he got so rapidly we ran ski. We put our thumb ski to our nose ski and said, San Fairy and